Welcome to Change Conversations with Mpume. So today I'm speaking to a very lovely lady that I know, Nwabisa. Nwabisa is going to talk to us about her career and how she's ended up where she's at. And thank you for joining me. Please continue to like the videos and subscribe and share, and let's have a good conversation with Nwabisa. Hi, Nwabisa.
Hi, Boms. How are you?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
So the line in here is, you do a better job at introducing yourself than me. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. It always feels like blowing your own trumpet when you introduce yourself.
Why not?
Let me blow it. I am Nwabisa Matyumza, and I have worked in the content space for the last 10 years. Right now, I work as a senior content strategy manager for one of the pay TV companies across Africa. And I really love my job. I started as an intern, and 10 years later, I am here.
Oh, wow. When you say content, what does that mean?
That means television content primarily, but I also do work with radio. So what I do is that I look for channels for paid television, right? I assess channels, I help channels to perform better. And I also make sure that we've got the right channels, TV channels that people are looking for, and that those channels have the right content that people are looking for.
Yeah. Wow, Nwabisa, that sounds interesting. So let's take a step back. When Nwabisa was 10 years old, did Nwabisa know anything about this content? Was Nwabisa interested in this? When you were young, what did you think you'd do?
So, okay, when I was 10 years old, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I can't remember that far. But when I was in high school, I wanted to be an accountant. I was very good in accounting. And, you know, being an accountant was one of the it jobs that you could look forward to. So then when I was in grade 11, I was really good at accounting. So I thought I wanted to be an accountant, right? That was the it job, you know, with a lot of money and all these things. So I decided to go to PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, it was called back then. Yeah, for a shadowing program. Okay. I went there during the September holidays for a week. So I went there and I was bored out of my mind. The people were great. They were really, really great. And they were teaching me things, but the energy there just didn't match who I was. So at the end of that week, I was like, no, this is not what I want to do. And luckily for me, right next door to PricewaterhouseCoopers, this was in Port Elizabeth, was the SABC, Umhlobo Wenene. So every day when I left PricewaterhouseCoopers, I would look at the SABC and think I should go in there. I should go in there. And then on the last day at PwC, when I realized that, nope, this isn't for me, I got up the courage, I mustered up the courage to walk into Umhlobo Wenene, and I asked them if I could come and shadow them.
Wow.
So they were very busy, you know, media, everyone's busy. They're like, no, you must email us. I was like, no, who can I talk to? I just want to talk to them for 5 minutes. And then I just stuck there until someone came. And then they said, okay, yes, during the next school holiday, I can come through and I can shadow them for a week. And that is how I fell in love with media. So at Umhlobo Wenene in Port Elizabeth, the energy was great. Yeah. So who knows?
That's a very interesting story.
Thank you. It could have gone very bad, being an accountant, and it wasn't going to match.
No, and I can relate because I also did commercial subjects. I also thought I was going to be a chartered accountant, and that was short-lived, literally. At university, then I really discovered accounting wasn't my thing. But I think what I like, Nwabisa, is that element of wanting to job shadow somebody, just to get a sense of what that role looks like. Because most of the time, what we do, we think we would love to do something up until you just spend a day or even 2 days in it, and you look at what the other person is doing. And then you realize, like, there is no way I can do this for the rest of my life. And I think just the guts to be able to walk out and go to SABC and stick around up until somebody spoke to you, that for me is like, wow, no, that was fantastic. So then what happened afterwards?
So I got to the SABC and I spent a week there. I think one of the best weeks of my life. You can imagine at that point, I was 17, full of energy. The newsroom was super busy. And at that point, there were actually riots in Port Elizabeth, in one of the townships. So, they let me do stuff inside. I got to sit in the morning prayer where they actually talk about which news stories they're going to do. And it was so fast paced. I really enjoyed it. And then they wouldn't let me go out, into the field. But then I got to do voiceovers and to read stuff that actually went out on air.
Wow.
So that was really, really great. And then at that point, that's when I decided that, okay, I'm going to go and study media. At that point, I said, I want to be a journalist. That was what I wanted to do. So I went to UCT. Actually, after matric, I didn't go directly to varsity because at home there wasn't money, right, for me to register during my matric year. So then I worked the year after varsity, which was really great. I actually studied accounting at UNISA while I was working, right? Even though in my heart I knew.
You knew this is not what you wanted.
Yes. But my family, no, Nwabisa, you have to study a BCom. And I'm like, I want to do a BA. They're like, you're not going to have money. You're not going to find a job with a BA. Like, what? Journalists are poor, and in my heart I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I applied for both accounting and media, and then I got accepted for accounting at Rhodes, and I didn't tell my father. I just kept quiet. So first option was accounting, second was media, and then UCT came through. And then I said to him, I wasn't accepted for accounting, didn't show him the papers, and I went and I studied. And I went and I studied what I was passionate about. And
but does he know the story now that you were accepted at the other university?
No, I've never told him. He still hasn't accepted that I didn't get a BCom accounting degree.
He's going to know after this.
Yes. Oh, no, but now I think it's time to tell him I am doing my MBA. So that has sort of made him feel much better. He's very old school.
That's funny. That's very funny.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got accepted at UCT?
Yes.
Okay.
For a BA in media and writing. So I did a triple major in media and writing, English literature, and political science. So I thought it would be, a great combination for a journalist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you started working, how did that go? So where did you start?
So looking for a job was not easy, but then I got an internship at MultiChoice, and I started as an intern in what was called the platform department. So basically, that is the division that is responsible for project managing all the channel launches and the technical aspects of it, testing the quality before the channel launches, making sure that everybody in our business, as well as the channel side, is ready for the channel to get launched, that marketing is ready, customer care knows that this channel is coming, they have all the answers they need. Technically, we are ready to launch, say, on X day and at X time, and that everybody is on board. So that is where I started. I was very grateful in that when I started, I didn't do, you know, a lot of people tell you when you're an intern, the first thing that you're going to do is make copies. Uh, luckily for me, when I arrived in the office, I was sharing an office with this other gentleman who was bouquet assistant, right? The first day you arrive in the office, they give you your laptop, they tell you this is where you sit, and then you sit around and you think, okay, what now?
What
So
now?
I was there, yes, for a few minutes, and then I was like, okay, let me chat with this guy. His name was Chaz. I was like, oh, hi, I'm Nwabisa. What are you doing? And at that point, he was assessing a channel. I was like, oh, I can help you with that. I knew nothing about assessing channels. I said, you can tell me what to do. I can help you with that. And so on my first day, I actually assessed a channel. I still remember, you know, it was a wedding channel. And
wow.
yeah, so luckily, I actually started doing real work from day one. Yeah.
No, that's great. So, but Nwabisa, why are you passionate about content? Like where does that come from?
Oy, oh my goodness. You know, when you talk about content, for me, it's when you see what we've done, right? As a content specialist, I call myself a content specialist. When you see when people are watching television, you know, you see excitement, people get sad, people get happy, you know, there are all these emotions. People want to talk about these things, you know. Television, I'm using the content, you know, the word television to describe content.
Yeah.
It's a huge medium, right? That can make you happy, it can make you sad, it provides you with knowledge. You learn so much from television. That is what excites me. And when you see people enjoying it, yeah, there's nothing better than that.
So if there's somebody who's hearing this conversation, what would you tell them? What are the things that if they would like to do this job, what are the things that they must think about? What skills do they need? What would that look like?
Okay. So I think to work in television, the first thing that I always recommend people to do is to love television. If you cannot watch television and want to make television, it doesn't work.
And I've heard people going, I don't even own a television. Like, you know, what are the chances that you are going to make something that matters for television when you don't own one?
Exactly, right? So you don't have to own the traditional box that sits in your lounge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your phone, you know, has become the new television box, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you sit under your covers at night and all you're doing is watching content, laughing, crying, being in awe, that is the first thing for working in television. And the reason why it's so important to have a passion for it, it's because TV isn't a science, right? It's an art. There is an aspect of science that comes into it that we'll probably talk about later. But whenever you do an art, you have to be passionate about it. You have to love it. And people will see that when they watch the content, right?
Yeah.
So if that doesn't come through, right, then you're not going to get it right. So that's the first thing. Love television, love content. It doesn't matter whether you love watching just cartoons or watching whatever, right? You can make content, because then once you understand how to enjoy the art, you can create the art.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then what do you study now? Let's get technical. To be honest, 100% honest, you don't really have to study for this. A lot of the things that I ended up doing in the workplace, a lot of them I did not get taught in school, right?
Okay. Yeah.
However, it will stand you in good stead if you have a degree or a diploma in media studies. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to be in production, do please study film. because that's more technical, right? You can't get to a film set and everyone has to be teaching you, this is what this camera is called, this is what panning means. And because the environment that you're coming into is so fast paced that if you don't understand these things, people are going to get frustrated with you. So if you have that basis, especially in production, then that will help you quite a great deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Studying a language, right, I think is beneficial. The reason for a language is not so that you can speak good English or but language has history to it, right? And it means that the depth of your knowledge when you're speaking to people, when you're putting content together, you can tap into that, right? I always say people in television need to read a lot, right? You watch a lot of television and also read a lot, because understanding history, it doesn't matter whether you are in news production or you're in filmmaking, right? If you don't understand history, then you won't be able to tell authentic stories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. Because if I only am aware of my lived experiences, I can only tell stories within that framework, right? So I can't only tell stories that Nwabisa and people like Nwabisa will relate to. You want to tell stories to a broader base of people. And you can't live everybody else's experiences, but you can read about them. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm very old school, but I feel that reading about things.
You are so young to be old school, Nwabisa.
Thank you. Yeah, but reading has a certain element to it, because unlike you become closer to the writer and your characters in a way that you can't be in television or TV content, So once you understand how to build emotions, how to relate to a character emotionally, which comes from reading, then you'll be able to create the same type of content. When you read a book and you cry, you get angry, or you like, yes, this person, get out of there. It's the exact same emotions that you're going to create, right, on the television screen. And that's why people will keep watching, or they won't watch anymore. So yeah, those are my three things. Love television, study media or television and film, and read. Get experience in other people's, how other people live.
Okay, no, that's great. But talk to me, what does a day at work for Nwabisa look like? Just to get people to visualize what goes on and for them to get a sense of, on a day-to-day, what happens.
Okay, every day is different.
Which is never great, for sure.
Yes, there's never a day like yesterday or the week before, the month before. But I need to pick one thing, right? So one of the key things, let us say now, the business has decided that we need to look for a channel. Easter is coming up, right?
Yeah.
So now we need to look for a channel. The kids are going to be home. So we know that we need a channel for Easter, right? So now the main task is for me to go out there, not physically out there, but do research. What type of channels are out there? What type of channel do we need? Is it a kids channel? Is it a religious channel that we're looking for, right? So let's say it is a kids channel and we want to speak to young boys, or we don't have enough content for girls type of thing. So then we want to speak to young boys. They are looking for an action channel. So I'd go out there and say, okay, what do the other competitors have, right? Yeah. And then I also go and I look, what do they have in the States? What do they have in the US, right? That we currently don't have, that speak to our market. And then you would start then chatting to those people to say, hey, I'm looking for this type of channel. What do you have? People will send you what they have. So then you would assess it, you would assess the channel, and you'd also watch the content, right? Because you can't assess a channel on paper, right?
Yeah.
So now when I'm assessing this channel, I'm no longer Nwabisa, a 30-year-old female, right? I have to assess this channel as a 7-year-old boy, right? Who is who is home for the holidays, who has watched all these other channels. So then that's the framework that I'm assessing this channel as, right?
Okay.
Because I wanted to speak to the right people, I need to become that person. Yeah, so
and
you
how
have
do you do that, though, Nwabisa? Isn't that tricky?
It is at first. It is because it's so hard to not look at something through your own worldview, right?
Yeah,
but then after a while, you start learning. You have to say, okay, a 7-year-old boy, what do they like, right? They like playing these types of games. Okay, if they're not playing games, what are they watching? They like watching funny cartoons, on Cartoon Network, on Nickelodeon. What type of cartoons are they watching? They like action, and they also like comedy, right?
Yeah.
And then, so say I don't have a 7-year-old in my household. So you need to then you look at the data around, I like that last week your conversation was around data, right?
Yeah.
One of the conversations you have, you start reading about who is this viewer? What do they like? And then when you're watching this content, you start ticking now to say, comedy, there it is, right?
Okay.
Action, there it is. Hold on, they've seen this action before on another channel. No, this won't work for them. Or this action is gruesome for them. Or this isn't the type of comedy they like. They like slapstick kind of comedy, people falling over type of thing. So then that's how then you get into the mind of a 7-year-old boy and you become one. Because if you assess a kids channel as a parent, there's the type of content that parents want their children to watch.
They're not that you would not approve if you're assessing it from a parent's perspective.
Exactly. You want it to be educational. Exactly. You don't want to see the kids teasing each other, but that is what the kid who's sitting in front of the TV enjoys watching, right? But then at the same time, you need to now use your judgment to say, okay, how far can we take this? And then how can I be a responsible broadcaster? It can be funny, but I'm still putting in those good values in there that the parents want to see, right?
Yeah.
So they laughed at the kid when the kid, when the kid was falling, but then at the end of the day, there's a good moral behind it, the underdog wins, or the other kids help this kid afterwards, etc., etc. So if you watch it, then there's always that balance, It's funny, but at the end of the day, the good guy always wins.
Yeah.
So that is So that is pretty much how it would go. And then, so you're looking at research data and you're also watching television, right? Which is the best part of our job. And then and then you also looking at what does the business want, right? Because now you have to think about the 7-year-old, right? And you also have to think about what is the business looking for, right? Will this channel meet those goals from a business perspective? And that's where it starts getting technical.
Okay, but I'm assuming that how you assess a channel and how you just assess a piece of a program is still the same thing, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Or are there any differences if it's a channel to just assessing a piece of content?
I think a piece of content, you have to delve in a bit deeper and a bit more personal, right?
Okay.
But when you're assessing a whole channel, you do look at the same things, really, because it's always about who is watching and what reactions you're looking for, right?
Okay.
And now in a piece of content, now you have to go into what is the storyline? How does the storyline develop, right? When are the cliffhangers, right? What is the moral of the story? So So from a program perspective, now you delve in a bit deeper and you say, I bought this character, for this to be authentic, why is this character speaking English like 90% of the time when they're Black, when she's angry, but her home language is Zulu. But when, so what those things you need to look into. So the authenticity is always, I think, number one. And that's what makes great content. If it's not authentic, it won't fly.
Okay. No, I hear you. But let's balance this conversation. What are the things that you don't like about a job? Could be just one thing that you just don't enjoy doing.
There's a lot of regulatory guidelines that we need to follow, right? Yeah. So now that's the law part of this whole thing, right? The paperwork I sometimes don't like when you need to write a lot of reports. But we need to follow, we can't just create content as how and when we feel. We need to follow strict guidelines. And sometimes content producers don't follow those guidelines where, certain type of content can only play at a certain time of the day, right? Content that plays, during the day can't have certain sex scenes. The language, the type of language they speak, it can't have certain things. So sometimes those things slip through the cracks and then we get into trouble and then we need to resolve that, right? So going through that, that's the serious part of this, the policeman, I call it the policing element. So we need to make sure that we are responsible broadcasters. And it's not always nice because you're sometimes like, no, man, but people are going to like this. People want to see it. But yes, it's not suitable either for this market or it's not suitable for this time slot. But then if now I put it later, at night when the kids are sleeping, but there's not a lot of people awake at that time. So not a lot of people are going to see this piece of content. So it's about policing it and ensuring that we're doing right by our viewers.
Yeah. And what are the... Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No.
So I wanted to say, what are the nuances that you must take into consideration when you are creating content that could be global or that could be for the continent per se? Because it's not just about South Africa or Uganda or Malawi. Now it's a piece of content that needs to be watched globally or just across the region. What do you need to think about from that perspective?
Ooh, that is a great question. Let's talk about Africa as a whole, as a continent, right? Even South Africa is very... I wouldn't say, you can put South Africa in one box. This is how South Africans are, or this is how Nigerians are. It's never like that. So when we're now creating a piece of content, let's say for the whole continent, now you need to think about how different South Africans are to, say, Nigerians, right? What are the key differences there? But then at the same time, we are so similar in other ways. Right? So when you're talking about sex, right, how far can you push it? But what are the things that are complete no-no, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you think about, let's say, France, for them, showing boobs, they don't consider that nudity, right? But for us, having a woman walking on your TV screen without her top on, that is, everyone will be like, that's nudity. You can't do that, right? So even when you acquiring content from international sources and bringing it to Africa, you need to think about that. So that's one of the other important things we do when we acquire content from international guys, to say, guys, you can't do this here. Or sometimes you can't do this in South Africa, right? The laws are pretty liberal. However, if now you take the same piece of content to just next door, Zambia, right?
Yeah.
You need to now think about how different the laws in Zambia are to South Africa, right?
Yeah.
So, and also thinking the community, is it more of a Christian community, right? How strict are they, right? In terms of, and the values, right? Specific values that are in Kenya would be different to the core values in Nigeria, would be different to Zambia and South Africa. But then how can we take this single piece of content and make sure that it speaks to all those different people across all those different regions? So it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
You have to find the right piece of the puzzle that fits.
It sounds exciting and challenging at the same time, though.
It is. I think so, yeah. It's like, you know, you can't be complacent and say, I'm just creating a piece of content because my aunt likes it. You know, you have to think, you have to think through it, you know, but also be quite scientific. So this is where now it comes to reading, right? And then understanding those different nuances. And when can you break the rules? Because, I mean, this is art, right? At what point can we break the rules?
And creative people love breaking the rules.
Yes. We do.
But I think what's important for me is knowing, hence I'm asking you that what are the pieces of your work that you might not like as much? It still needs to be done, but you might not like, because I think all of us, and we get caught up in the conversation that says, I've finally found my passion and I'm very passionate about my job. But even in the midst of how passionate you are, there's still pieces of that you're just like, I want somebody else to do this part, you know, no matter how passionate I am about it. But, and for me, I'm passionate about the stuff that I do, but I need somebody else to read all the legal documents and stuff, because my brain doesn't go there. If I have to do it, I'll do it. But it's like, oh God, can they write in English? Can I just read and understand what they're saying? Because, you know, so it's quite critical that even when you found something that you're passionate about, understand that there will be days where you feel like, I don't feel like doing this today. It happens once in a while. It's not on a daily basis. But also there are pieces of the work that you might not be as passionate about, but it still needs to be done.
I think one of the greatest examples, you know, that matches up with this is that with content, right? Now you're an artist, right? But you're working for a corporate. So I come up to Mbume and I say, Mbume, I have this fantastic idea, you know? This is great. There's this new channel. This is what it does. It's beautiful. It's all of these things. And then the business says, okay, all right, we hear you. Bring us the numbers, you know? How are we going to sell this thing? And you can't just say, no, it's great, guys. It's going to sell. People are going to watch it, you know, because I say great. Because you maybe can see the vision, but not everybody will have the same passion as you. So now then you have to go and be like, okay, what is the research data saying? And research, it's reading numbers, it's calculating numbers, looking at trends. It's not always exciting, you know? And sometimes you might not really understand all this data, all these numbers. So you have to put in the time to understand how does this data work? Because for me to go and convince my superiors, I need to be able to take this data and create a story out of it, right? My CEO only wants to see numbers. He doesn't care about how beautiful this channel is and the trends that are happening on social, you know, he wants to see the numbers. So in order for me to get what I want, I need to go through this, you know, this tunnel of crunching the numbers and pulling the data. And you can't do that unless you put in the time to understand it.
Yeah, and I think that's a very critical point, Nwabisa, because there's an element of I just want to create. And you've got producers and directors and actors that just want to create. But even with them just creating, at the end of the day, there is an element of return on investment. Are we making money or are we not making money? So it all boils down to a point of, I am creative, but there are other elements that I need to do in my job that I might not like. And sometimes this is where outsourcing comes in. If you've got other people that can do that bit of work for you, then it's ideal that you do that. But if you're employed, there's an expectation that you produce some of these things yourself. So you need to take the time to learn and be able to sell your idea, plus the business element that comes with it, which I think is very important.
It is. And, it's the difficulty with this, right? I acquire content, but I don't have an endless pool of gold, that whenever I see something I like, exactly, right, that I can pay for it and say, oh my gosh, no, let's put it on. And there's only so many channels we can put up, right? Because satellite capacity is like a house. You only have so many rooms in it. You can only accommodate so many people. So it might be a great piece of content or a great channel, but is this channel going to bring people in, right?
Yeah.
And you can't only show me your beautiful content. You need to show me that you've done the research into this, right? That all those other things, that because it's not just you who's presenting content to me, there's a huge line of you guys, a huge line of producers, a huge line of content creators, right? So I need to pick the best out of, I don't know, this line of 10 people. And it's not only going to be about the beautiful content, because at the end of the day, this is a business.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
It's not the nice part of it, but it's the reality of it, like what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's great. So Nwabisa, if somebody, I think this is my last question. If somebody were to really want to get into this, they are listening to you, they are thinking, I think this is exciting. This is exciting. What's the one thing that you ask them to do, or the one thing that they must think about?
Well, okay, it depends where they are in their career, right?
Okay.
So the advice that I would give to someone in school is definitely on one of your holidays, call someone up. The greatest thing about it is that people in this industry love teaching. They're always willing to, okay, when it's not COVID or lockdown, go in and spend time at a media company, right? The people in this industry are extremely friendly, but people need to see that you want to do this, right? If you show the passion, people are busy. So take that into account. So you're not just going to walk into a place and people are going to be like, yes, I've got time to shadow you, but ask, right? I always say ask. The worst thing anybody can say to you is no.
Is no, exactly.
Yeah, and no is not going to kill you. You ask someone else. You ask someone else until you get someone to say yes. So definitely learn more about the focus that you want to go into, because it's so broad, right? You can be in production, you can be in post-production. Spend time there with the people so that you actually really understand what it is they do. And then if you're already working, right? So now you don't have time to go and study for a film degree. Spend time with the people, volunteer some of your time, right? When I was looking for a job, one of the things I did is that I went and I worked as a journalist for one of the radio stations here in Joburg, right? While I was waiting for my interviews. And I volunteered my time. And during that time that you volunteer, you learn so much. Right? And once people can see that you're passionate about this, it will be easier for them to say, hey, we've got this opening. Would you be interested? So you do have
or,
extra
or they
time.
can refer you as well, because
Yeah.
now they can, because people only refer people that they trust.
Yes. You don't want to refer someone you've never worked with, and then they get there and they do things, and then a bunch of people be like, Nwabisa, this is your person. You're like, no.
Exactly. No.
Yeah, because that's what happens. And then people won't ever trust your recommendations again, right? Because the last time the person you recommended. So definitely speak to people. Like 10 years later, within our company. So just right before we went on to lockdown, I was actually I'd actually booked a couple of sessions with one of our movie managers, and she was teaching me more about acquiring movies. So
Okay.
there's no point where I don't think that there's a point in your career where you can say, I'm too old for this, right?
Yeah.
Or I've got enough experience, because the industry itself is so broad, you can always learn more. An hour, once a week, 30 minutes, once a week, and people will help you. They will teach you stuff.
Yeah. No, thank you, Nwabisa. I think those are great points, and mainly I always have these conversations with people that want to do career transitioning, because sometimes when you're thinking, oh, I've been in marketing, but I love to go into content, there's an element of saying, but what am I bringing through? What skills am I bringing through? And sometimes you might be thinking you want to get into content only to find that that's not exactly what you like. So the conversation around job shadowing somebody, having some informational reviews with somebody on what do you do on a daily basis, just volunteering if you can, so that at least you can be exposed to that space for you to then really decide if this is something that you would like to move into or not. So I think that's a great point. Anyway, Nwabisa, thank you very much for the time. If people would like to get hold of you, have a conversation with you, where can they find you?
I suck on social media, but they can they can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. So Nwabisa Matyumza, so they can send me a message on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter. Well, I am on Twitter, but I'm not actively there. Yeah, but
Don't tweet.
yes, I I look at other people's tweets.
I can relate. The Twitter streets
Definitely
can
get
be
in
very
touch with me on
hectic.
LinkedIn. I don't think I've got the emotional, the EQ for Twitter. It's, yeah, you tweet one thing wrong and then it's over.
No,
LinkedIn is
that's
safe.
fine. Yeah, LinkedIn is safe and quite professional. Thanks, Nwabisa, for taking the time. So to anybody who was listening to this, please, if you really did enjoy our conversation, you can share, you can like, and you can then recommend with other people to subscribe to us. Thank you for taking the time. Bye.